Hult Prize Nigeria Podcast.
Hi innovators, change makers, and global leaders. My name is Samuel Olomu, and I'm your host for the Hult Prize Podcast. Here on Hult Prize Podcast, we spotlight innovation, entrepreneurship, and leadership. It's a platform for bold ideas, for leading questions, and for stories of resilience and grit. So, watch this space.
You're welcome on the call. My name is Samuel Olomu, and I'm PR and communications lead for Hult Prize Nigeria. Hult Prize is a social entrepreneurship competition for young innovators who are building social enterprises from Nigeria and across the world. So, welcome to the Hult Prize Nigeria's podcast. So today we'll be talking about a lot of things, and I'm so excited for our conversation today. So today we are joined by Maksim Sonin, a global executive, investor, and innovation leader who is working at the intersection of energy, infrastructure, and humanitarian impact. He has led industrial portfolios worth over $15 billion and helped develop world-scale petrochemical, ammonia, and fertilizer complexes that support global energy and food security. He's a Sloan Fellow from Stanford Graduate School of Business. Maksim also holds a PhD in engineering and a master in finance. He's a fellow of the Energy Institute and the Institution of Engineering and Technology. You're welcome once again on the call, Maksim.
Thank you, Samuel. Good to meet you. Good to meet you indeed.
Glad to meet you too. So we just get right into it. So we'll be asking questions from your journey and motivation, like what actually got you started, and we talk about your work in the investment as an investor, and we also talk about your work as an innovation leader. So the first question I'm going to ask. So let's start from the beginning. How did this? How does all of this started for you? Like, how did you start? How has the journey been to you? What actually influenced this journey for you? Yeah.
Samuel, all my life and career span about energy infrastructure. I happen to be in this business for quite a while, and I have begun my career in UAE as a site construction engineer, growing up and up towards more commercial and investments kind of roles. And I was lucky enough to be involved in many first of its kind and very innovative projects which dealt with numerous problems concerning humanity, like water shortages, how to make energy cheaper, more affordable, and cleaner. And over time, it became an exciting journey for me. And along the way, I love working with young people, mentoring, like over 100 of probably mid-career managers. And here I am now. Just love it and want to keep on going, keep on doing these things, and make a positive contribution and impact.
All right. Thank you so much, Maksim. And yes, you've done quite a number of work across energy, infrastructure, and global investment, as I've earlier established. So yes, let's talk a little bit about investments. Like, you're an investor, you worked in global investment, and Hult Prize is for young innovators who are building social enterprises across Nigerian universities, and they are building enterprises relating to the 17 SDG goals. So what do you think should be priority to these early stage startups in a way that attracts investors' funding?
Samuel, most of these founders, as I would imagine, they're students, right? They're early stage founders with great potential. And I think, when it comes to early stage versus a mature investment when we can run financial models, do all this sort of analysis, like due diligences, like markets forecast. I mean, at early stage, you don't have it. But first thing which they do have is their conviction, their enthusiasm, and their commitment. So that is the very first thing which I would look for in these early stage founders from Nigeria. I mean, how enthusiastic, how committed they are, and how do they personally believe in what they're doing. Because and then if they do have this kind of conviction and aspiration, then there is a high chance it's gonna grow into something big. And my job, as long as other investors and supporters and mentors, just help them to grow from this. But I want to see this at the very beginning, like this kind of energy, conviction, and enthusiasm in what they're doing.
All right. Thank you so much, Maxim. And so we just see towards the angle of, okay, you've led various projects that $1 billion projects, right? And you started from somewhere. You've told us a little bit about your journey, your motivation, and all of that. But still talking about young entrepreneurs. So particularly at Hult Prize Nigeria, and let me even generalize this to Nigeria, which is our own demography here, right? So young people, they come up with ideas, innovative solutions, and at the end of the day, like they don't end up like pushing them forward. You mentioned conviction, and that actually sits well with me. You need to have a very good founder story. This is what led me. We have three kinds of businesses. We have the business of your problem, like while you were growing up, you faced a particular challenges and you wanted to actually change the narrative for other young people who are also growing up. You have the business of your passion, something you are passionate about. You can sing. You are not the best singer in the world, but you are really passionate about it. Passion is going to build your consistency in that particular thing you're doing, right? So talking about conviction, a lot of young people are building solutions here in Nigeria, and we notice that after the Hult Prize, they are not actually furthering this solution, right? I will give you an instance. Myself and like a friend, we built a solution. We built like a waste monitoring scheme in a way that here in Nigeria, when you dump off your waste, you need to be calling like necessary authority to come pick them up. Like the bin gets overfilled. I don't know if that is the same problem with your own site too. So yeah, and we are building this like an alert system that alerts like our own company when the bin gets filled up. So we want to save them of the stress of you calling authorities or you waiting till the next pickup date. So and we built a prototype for up to $300. We built a prototype for up to $300, and it's big money here, right? And then we couldn't scale because our idea is quite capital intensive, and there was no investor to fund us. If we're going to replicate $300 in about 100 places, that's a lot of money, right? So how do you think young people can move from just conviction to scaling, and scaling in terms of getting funded, getting investments? So what do you think are the right strategies they could actually put in place to match all of these things forward here? Thank you.
Yeah, Samuel, I think there are several approaches how to tackle this issue. The first one, in addition to conviction and your aspiration, you have to have the right kind of exposure. You have to be on the radar, people. You have to be visible enough so that wider community beyond your local premises are familiar with what are you doing, right? And with this regard, I think such a platforms like Hult Prize is a really great idea, a great platform to bring this visibility in place. And you don't have to be a winner. I mean, in terms of the formal competition winner at the end of the game, because what participants and semifinalists and so on, what they're gaining this visibility, right? And although there might be just one winner, formal winner, but other folks who just participate in getting this kind of exposure, I think they have much higher chance to get capital and support they need along the way. And that's another thing what I'm personally excited about. I want to learn more about local founders. I want to learn more about the problems they're trying to solve and how can I help them to progress further. How can I help them to grow their ventures outside of the Nigerian market? Because there are other different markets, both perspective, which quite stronger. And if sometimes your technology, your particular idea might not fit into specific investor portfolio, but it is a great fit to the other investor portfolio. But you will not learn about this unless you go out and test it out, like you're getting this kind of exposure. So this is one thing. And the second thing is, I do believe that a great solution is to build right partnerships at the very beginning. And I'm working on a few projects, for instance, right now, when I'm partnering with the corporate players at certain energy and infrastructure verticals, which have lots of global resources, engineering, construction, etc. And it costs much less for them in terms of time and money to build something you need to have built over there, and then bring some capital. And if we put this kind of right partnership together, early stage building, and then access to the customer network in order to prove initial traction, ideally locally, domestically, and internationally, your venture becomes immediately much more attractive to the venture capital community. And you're going to shine like a star at the end of the day. And that was the second thing which I would recommend early stage founders would explore. Right kind of partnerships. Those and a third one, you have to have an energy to deliver this, right? Aspiration is a good thing, but sometimes it changes as you explore further, and you have to be able to adapt, to move forward, like be open-minded as an entrepreneur here.
Thank you so much for that. And from what you mentioned, I heard a lot of things, which include, you said you need the right kind of exposure, aside from having the right conviction. And you mentioned visibility. I'm a media person myself. I studied law, but I have quite a number of ample experiences in media. Like I've led projects, currently working with Hult Prize Nigeria, like on a volunteerism capacity, and we've led quite a number. We do like traditional media integration, newspaper here and there, and all of that. So you've led like $1 billion investments, like projects and all of that. So what do you think is the importance of visibility for businesses? And I'll particularly talk about control. So one of the leverage that I think young innovators need is that the ability to do more with less. And we are in a world of technology now, right? That speaks more of the fact that what is going to take you ordinarily, what might ordinarily take you 10 days to achieve, with new technologies, emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, and all of that, it could take you just fewer hours. Like within a twinkle of an eye, you've achieved that. So what do you think are the leverage? And what do you think are the leverage for young entrepreneurs particularly? And what do you think are the importance of visibility for businesses, particularly from your own standpoint? Yeah.
So first of all, I do agree with you that there are lots of modern tools and instruments which were not available a few years ago, and you definitely have to take advantage of them. But the key thing for entrepreneur is that, I mean, when you look for a problem to solve, probably AI is not yet there to give you this problem, right? And wherever you can learn from Google, it's probably something which is already known, right? So you have to be proactive. You have to look into things which are beyond Google search. It means, I mean, no matter, I mean, AI is good to automate things, to save some time, but it doesn't address this main issue. I mean, what kind of problem you're going to resolve? This is first of all. And in terms of the visibility, I invest, I would say, a lot of my time to read different articles, give interviews, engage with the community, because sometimes it's not obvious, but over time it gives you lots of synergies, and you're gonna be surprised how many. Let me give you an example. So you, Samuel, yourself, you're an entrepreneur, you're a volunteer, and you're an active journalist, right? And I would imagine it takes tremendous amount of time for you, like to write and be active. And sometimes you might have a question, why would I do this? Or maybe should I do less of this and more of that? Or whether I just disperse myself into different things, right? But the thing is, you never know where the synergies are coming from. Let me give you an example. I've been interviewed by a Forbes journalist last week, and he's been working early in his career as a reporter for classical rock magazine, like music. He's became very famous, quite famous over there. And then he switched to policy and economics. That's what he dedicated his recent years to. And he told them, Maxim, you can't imagine that most of the people who are familiar with me and who are readers and dedicated readers of policy and economics, so those know me from my early work for classical rock. So now he's known among politicians and economists in the UK because he's been working for classical rock and managed to write a few great books on the same musical topic. You never know where the synergies are coming from. So my advice would be, if you want to get an exposure and grow, I mean, don't lock yourself in a tunnel. Just think wider. Allocate some time, meaningful amount of time, to do things which are beyond the one area you specialize in it. And just keep on doing, keep on exploring. And then over time, you will see that magic will happen to your surprise. And again, the most exciting thing for me, you never know where it's coming from. So that's what's happening with me. Like I'm writing, I engage with ASME Association. We spoke about how young engineers or mid-career engineers can change their careers. Then a few people approached me, reached out to me for an advice. We became friends. We start talking. Then I've got an advisory role at one company, right? Then we push through another startup. You never know. And that's all comes from your work, which is quite outside of your core domain, which is super exciting. So think wise, expose yourself to as many things as possible. Try to look into adjacent areas to your core business, but still keep enough focus, like along the way. That would be my probably best advice here.
All right. I think that's
Keep
a
on
very
doing and keep on doing your journalism. Keep on doing, because that's the way you make an impact. You're making meaningful connections. That's the way you communicate with the outside world. I think this is real great job you're doing.
yeah. Thank you so much, Maxim. Thank you so much. I will take that as a compliment. Yes, that being said, I think I have a backstory to everything I do. I told you earlier that I'm a law student. I'm a law graduate rather. I'll be going to law school next year, and I do media. Like right now, I want to transition into the media full time, like the creative space and the communication space full time. And I don't have a certification in journalism. I don't have a certification in media. I didn't study journalism in the school, right? And recently, I lost a job worth millions of dollars because I don't have a certification. I didn't apply
Mm.
for the job. The company reached out to me directly and they offered me the job. I went through all of the interview processes just for them to find out that I am a law graduate. I don't have a communications background, right? I can do the
Oh.
job, yes, but I don't have a background in communication. So, and I started writing while I was um, at the age of, I think at the age of 10. I started writing at the age of 10 and I got to write for like major newspapers in Nigeria as at when I was in secondary school, right? So now, right now, I've written for virtually all the biggest newspapers in Nigeria. So the major reason why I'm telling you these stories, I have a very good backstory. And I think
Mhm.
that founders should, as an investor, you will agree with me that most founders, probably why they are pitching to you, when they tell you about their backstories, about what they've actually done in the past, and that is going to like form the basis of whether you are actually investing in their product or not. That speaks more of the fact that they are the right person to actually solve this particular problem. So I think those are very salient points you mentioned there. So we are coming from the angle of leverage for young innovators, and one thing I would like to add to that is that you must be in control as an innovator. An innovator is going to be must be in control. Must be in control of how everything works, and control is command. Control is the kind of influence you have. Control is leadership you have on your team, on yourself. Leadership is very important. So yes, thank you so much for that. And you mentioned think wise, think of other things you can do, and just continue pushing yourself. And that speaks more about the visibility I raised the other time. So yes, I'd also like to add, you mentioned that you don't need to be a winner, particularly under the odds price. So some people they are just coming to the competition with the mind of I want to win the competition, and when they do not win the competition, they just stop building their innovation. And in 2024, we had a particular startup here in Nigeria from the University of Ilorin. They are building like an health tech solution. So they made it to the regional rounds in Kenya that year, and they didn't win at Kenya, but they got an investor that funded their product with like I think about $20,000 or thereabout, right? So if they had the mind of okay, I want to win, and they might not have gotten that kind of thing, or they are stopped at the early stage. They might not have gotten all of these things. So yes, thank you so much for those exposition. So and that will lead me to my next questions, right? So you work in academia, and you also do a lot of research here and there. So how is the connection between research, innovation, and real world application, right? So you will agree with me that most of these things, research is actually the drivers of most of these innovations we are seeing. So what do you think is the importance of research to innovation, and now to now translate that into real world application? Yeah.
I think research and what's going on in academia has a tremendous influence into how the innovation landscape is being shaped overall. And I mean, industry itself, it's good to be in industry because when you are in industry, you're very hands-on, right? You see what's going on the ground. You see all these implementations. From the other hand, in academia, There are many things which are far beyond compared to what's industry is thinking about right now. Let me give you an example. There is a technology called direct lithium extraction from brines. And it's now super popular, right? It's buzz. Everybody's talking about this because it's energy security, it's a critical minerals. I mean, lithium is needed for batteries. But in academia, it's been the thing worked on even 10 years ago, right? But 10 years ago in industry, I mean, nobody was talking about direct lithium extraction. I mean, it wasn't known. But folks in academia, they've been focusing on exploring these pathways. So my point is, yes, sometimes you can argue that academia lives in a kind of bubble in terms of research, and there is a disconnect from industry. And sometimes this disconnect is a good thing because you don't have all these distractors of operational world. You can focus on something which you think matters for the future. And if you or myself, in my case, if you can bridge the gap between, no gap, if you just can help it fit together, academia, industry, and investment, then you have all these synergies coming together. So, I mean, industry itself is a great thing. It's operational. It today generates income, right? It looks into a few years ahead, maybe sometimes further. Academia is another great place, and I know lots of breakthrough founders coming from that background. And when they all coming together and you help them to marry, that's where you have breakthrough. Not just an incremental improvement, like process optimization itself, but a breakthrough, like new sort of energy, like much cheaper, much cleaner, much more affordable. So my bottom line would be, if you want to have a breakthrough in something, not an incremental improvement, but a breakthrough, you have to work with both industry and academia together. And that's where most of the great things would be coming from. That's my hypothesis.
All right. Thank you so much for that. So you have to work with both the academia and the industry if you want to have a big breakthrough. And I reported in news recently, and the news was about I think it's a partnership between the European Union and Nigeria. So the European Union is they are dedicating quite a number of amounts to academic research in innovation and STEM in Nigeria, science, technology. Yeah. So and that speaks more of the fact that buttresses your point of there needs to be synergy between the academia and the industry, the wider industry at large. So that leads me to my last question. So as stated earlier, Hult Prize is about young innovators that are building social enterprises around the sustainable development goals. So yes, you'll be serving as a judge at the Hult Prize Nationals this year. I mean the virtual round. You'll be interfacing with a lot of founders, and considering your level of experience, so what do you look forward to seeing, like in terms of solution? So it's going to be a two-in-one question. What do you look forward to seeing in terms of solution, and what kind of opportunities do you think young innovators from Nigeria should actually be paying attention to?
You know, first, I'm looking for meeting great aspirational founders. That's the first thing. The second, I'm very excited to learn what kind of big problems and important problems they're gonna solve. And the third thing, what kind of solutions they're gonna bring to the table And that is the order of priority for me. Because if I see a right fit in the founder itself, and if I see that they are tackling very important problems, so even though their solutions might be not perfect, there is still time, and it's a journey. And I'm not looking for perfect pitch decks and stuff alike, but people, big problem, and a good idea on how to solve them. That is the three things which matter most for me. The rest we can polish. Like we can mentor, we can coach and do things like that. But people, problems, and good ideas on how they think, they can solve them.
All right. That being said, thank you so much.
And I'm super excited. I'm super excited, especially to talk about people from this kind of regional competitions, because that's where you learn a lot, and that's where you can meet really extraordinary people who were lacking visibility before. But now it's such a great chance for me to open this door and just help them grow, help them to get an international exposure. And through this, and by doing this, I'm also pursuing my goal, which is to make an impact and make this planet a better place at the end of the day. So we're all working together. We're helping each other, and it's win-win.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Maxim. And once again, I want to appreciate you on behalf of the Hult Prize executives from Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining our podcast. And I hope that all of these learnings and takeaways from this session is going to be like a very great one for our startups and our communities at large. So, yes, I think this is going to be the end of the session. And I look forward to personally connecting with you also. Yeah, I'm going to reach out.
Yes, and that's what I wanted to add. I mean, regardless of an outcome of this formal competition, I would welcome each and every founder just to reach out and to have a conversation. I'll be more than happy to stay connected and see how we can work together on this, or maybe new ideas along the way. I'll be more than happy.
All right, that will be great. I'm going to pass the message.
Thank you very much.